Hi, everyone. This is part 2 of my interview with Dr. Sellers, where we discuss more of her personal experience and get into leadership and career advice. If you're interested in learning more about Dr. Sellers, please go and listen to episode 1 of this interview. All right, let's move on to talk a little bit about some traits that you define as effective leadership. So I've heard you mention in your LinkedIn posts and elsewhere the importance of empathy in leadership. So what is the argument for embracing empathy as an essential trait for effective leadership?
So this might be an interesting take for you, but so I look at it very pragmatically. When I'm interacting with people, I'm looking for how do we get to a win-win? And it's not necessarily because we're negotiating. It's we may be working together on a project for an outcome. And the win-win is, a great collaboration for successful outcome. It could be a negotiation, but I spend my time trying to understand that person or those groups of people that I'm working with, and understand them from many facets, so that when I go into that situation, whether it's a meeting or a decision, or an opportunity to influence them, it's almost like a negotiation. I understand the context of that person, what motivates them, what are their stressors, what are their strengths even. As I mentioned earlier, what's their communication style? So the more that I can understand them, the more that I can understand the context of them and how best to shape the context I need them to be in to get something done, like to motivate them to take on a challenging project. So if I understand that they have, that they've had some failures in the past in a certain area, or they had a manager that was not effective for them, they're likely bringing that to the table. We all bring our past experiences with us. Then I can communicate more effectively why this may be different than what they've experienced in the past, and why I believe that they're going to be set up for success to do well this time. And so that's how I create empathy is by really understanding the people that I'm working with through the many facets that they are. And it takes a lot of listening, a lot of asking questions and being vulnerable and getting people to open up and share with you, not like deep insights, but just, the different facets of them as a coworker or a team member. And then it allows me to more effectively plan out, how do we create this win-win with each other or as a team for the outcome that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, it's like this, I have this vision of like the space between, right? There's this said outcome that they want to achieve, but you're not just reading that at face value. You're understanding or trying to understand the course of discussion or history that you've known them, their motivations, their own sensitivities, the why behind it, so that it can better inform your approach, so that it can be viewed as a win-win for each party. Let's talk a little bit about the spectrum of empathy. So this is hard for women to navigate at any level of leadership. What's your take on women who display empathy as being perceived as too soft or not leadership material on one end, or on the other end, penalized for looking as if they're too assertive or decisive if they don't? So is there a cautionary tale we should heed as women?
I think it's dangerous to get into you're either this or that, right? This is binary way of working. I even say the same thing with communication styles and leadership. And I'd say the same here is it's best if you can build capabilities to work across the range, if you will. In different situations, you're going to need to flex one way or the other, right? You might need to be more empathetic in certain situations. In others, you're going to need to be firm and hold people highly accountable, regardless of the situation that may be happening, outside of work. And it may force you to remove them from that project because you need absolute focus. So I think that's my advice to people is know where you are in that spectrum. Absolutely. You need to know where you naturally land. And then what do you need to do to help yourself move towards the other end of that spectrum? Because I think the first thing is certainly self-awareness. You need to know, like, is your tendency to be super soft and give people too much time to deliver and be held accountable? Or are you just unforgiving of people's situations and you're just too hard and just focused on results and not taking anything into account of that person being a human being and having other things? So know where you are. And then I think my recommendation is to learn how to flex. And if that means you need to bring your HR partner in to help you in those situations and coach you through how you deliver, so your delivery is softer yet firm, that accountable. You're not going to give up on accountability, but you understand that some flex needs to be made. Bring in resources to help you as you get practice, because you need to practice being able to flex from wherever you are to the other. And so that's my approach, is making sure that I have the ability to move depending on the situation and be more firm in certain situations or more soft or empathetic in other situations.
It's self-awareness. Yeah, self-awareness of it. So sort of taking a moment to be in the moment, I guess, in a situation, to say, is this method that I am delivering, is it serving me? Is it serving others in this particular situation? And taking note of it. I work a small organization, right? We're all moving a million miles an hour. And it's so easy to sort of just get caught up in, okay, on to the next. And sometimes it's just taking a moment. I'll be 1 minute late to a meeting so that I could just take a moment just to breathe and think, did that work well for me? Do I need to make any adjustments?
I was just going to say, and I think also people get so caught up with themselves and what they're saying and doing that they're not reading the people in front of them and their body language. And so I think you're spot on, is that prep before you go in to interact with people is important. But I think it's also being present when you are interacting with them that's just as important. Because you think you may have rehearsed your delivery to be a little softer, say maybe you're not so soft, and so you rehearsed it with your HR partner. But then if you're not paying attention to how that delivery is being received, then it's going to miss the mark no matter how much you practiced. And so that's why that having that skill to flex and to adjust in the moment is so critical, just like with communication style, because you need to read the room and then, okay, if they're not hearing it the way I'd intended, what might I do differently to say say the same message in a different way, so that maybe then it's heard in the way that I wanted it to. I think that's also important.
And communication now. So we're speaking of communication, communication to convey messages and inspire people to take action is another one of your areas of interest. You are calm, you're thoughtful, you are a confident public speaker, and you have to be really in your role at Vector Laboratories as CEO. What stories or advice do you have for those in search of their own unique public speaking voice?
It's a good question. I had recently had an employee ask me about some advice for posting on LinkedIn, and I think it relates even to this. It goes back to reflecting and knowing yourself and accepting yourself. And so I'm direct, I'm transparent, I share, and I'm okay with that. And so that's why my style is such that, and it is very conversational. And so give me like a prepared speech that I have to memorize. Oh my gosh.
Forget it.
So nervous. You will not see calm Lisa, or maybe you see calm Lisa, but inside I'm like, just sweating, getting sick to my stomach. And so I think knowing like where are you your most authentic self, and embrace that and don't sign up for those things that you have to memorize and say word for word, because you might not be as successful until you practice and practice and practice. And so that's what I try to do, is deliver in the way that is true to myself and be comfortable with it and not compare it to other people.
Part of everybody's own development, right? We're human. We compare ourselves to others all the time. What do you do to not compare? That just you've honed that skill for so long now that you don't compare, or do you still have that comparison sort of vulnerability? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so part of it might be that confidence thing, but it's also just recognizing that. So I do see other people speak. I see snippets of it certainly on LinkedIn, and we all see TED Talks. Those are all rehearsed, and so I'll be impressed with people that are a different style speaker than myself. But my assumption is that's authentic to them, right? It's not necessarily that I have to compare because that's theirs. That's their talk, that's their delivery. And I may take notes about something that they did, and maybe I can weave that into myself, but I'm not looking to mirror them, right? And so I think, certainly first and foremost, it's, understanding what's the environment where people will connect with you. And for me, like, I'd much rather just go walk into our manufacturing floor and go just chat with the employees than have a formal, okay, now Lisa's going to present. So the more conversational approach is where I'm more comfortable. And so those are the kinds of places where I'll direct my energy. And so, for example, if my public relations team says, oh, here's this opportunity, to give this very scripted talk for this audience, I might actually give it to one of my employees because I have an employee, she's great at that. And so why would I go do that when that's not fun for me and it's not where I would shine? But here's an environment where she would. And so why not give it to her? Because that's where she shines. That's her strength in how she presents. That's a situation where we're very different types of presenters. And so there's no need for us to compare to each other. And other people shouldn't compare us as speakers because we have our own style and our own brand, and that's okay.
Own your brand.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Own your brand and improve your brand, but don't compare your brand to someone else. We're all different. An apple isn't better than a banana. They both have their place, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's right. And recognizing that, and it's okay to say no to some of these opportunities or find somebody who would be better at it than you. Right. And so, because then you're just reinforcing for yourself positive outcomes. Right. So it's if you're putting yourself in these situations to communicate that fit your style, then you build up natural confidence because at the end of those, it was successful. People come up to you and they say, oh, I really appreciated that. It really resonated with me. We don't always have that opportunity, but if, 80, 90% of the time you can put yourself in that situation where it's an environment that is already tapping into your natural communication state and where you do well, then it reinforces positive reinforcement, right? And you build confidence, and then you start to remove the jitters and the nervousness. Because I'll tell you, in high school, I took public speaking class because I was terrified of public speaking, terrified. And I tried out for cheerleading in high school because my friends asked me to, and I said, sure, but I didn't realize how terrified I was to perform in front of the judges. So much so that I forgot my entire routine.
Both of them scripted.
Yes.
My head, right? So there you go. This scripted piece is coming back and saying, you know what, that's not really you. Yeah, that it seems like that comes off a lot better for yourself. You feel better, and others seem to recognize and feed off of that.
Yeah, I will say, so what I did in the cheerleading tryout is I just on the fly made up my own routine.
There you go. There's another point.
And I made the team. So you never know. You can still have a positive outcome.
Yep.
So I went to my authentic self, which is, at that age, I don't know what that's 15.
There you go.
Still behaved the same.
Great. Well, you also mentioned a little bit about delegation, right? You recognize strengths in others. And this is a really nice lead into another area that I wanted to talk to you about. Good delegation empowers teams. It can elevate confidence, enhance morale, productivity. And we know that the other end of that spectrum, I'm talking about spectrums a lot here, but poor delegation can create this feeling of loss of control or even trust. So what strategies have you seen or even personally used that would help listeners better plan for handing over responsibilities to others?
Yeah, so you'll see some repetition here, right? The more that you can understand your colleagues, your employees, those different facets of them, particularly their strengths, their interests, what things motivate them. The way that I've looked at things as, resources available to you. And so you don't have to do it all yourself all the time. And so if you understand your employees and your team members and what they're great at, or what they have passion around, or what they have interest around, and you match that to where there's a resource need, you've got a great opportunity to have effective delegation. You do have to understand your employees, and even if it's not an experience they've had before, but you can see a transferable skill and strength to that opportunity, you're going to do a much better job motivating them about, because they might be like concerned, I don't know, or scared and won't tell you that they're getting this opportunity that they've never done before, and they're afraid to fail. And so you can motivate them by giving them specific examples of what you've seen in them do well that's transferable to this situation. Yes, they haven't done this before, but here's what I've seen you do and why I think this is going to help you be effective in this new opportunity. And of course, you have to do traditional techniques of effective delegation, of making sure you contract on how much you're going to connect in with each other, what's the information you already know to get them set up for success, what are your expectations of them. So you still have to do the tactical effective delegation. But what I like to put in there, though, is really the matching of, all your employees and your team members are resources to be deployed. And if you know their strengths, transferable skills, their development interests, you can do a much more effective job in matching the unmet need of the resource to the talent that you have, and then effectively empower and motivate them to go do.
So recognizing first the value of delegation and knowing that that's valuable over trying to do it all yourself.
Absolutely.
So the value first is recognizing, and then what you mentioned is seeing the confidence in others and sharing with them that I see the confidence in you to do this. And that also creates a sense of this trust in others. And then they're like, okay, well, this person saw this in me. Maybe I should see this in me too. So that's kind of this motivating factor. And then, like you said, this tactical piece of, okay, now that we're on the same page that this can happen, here are the rules of engagement. Those are my takeaways from that. I think those are all really good points that you made.
Yeah. And it goes back to, I think when we talk about, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, I mean, making sure that you're tapping into people's diverse experiences. If you think of it that way, of like, okay, I've had these experiences, and yes, I could go do this, but I may just do it the same way I've done it before. But what if I bring in, these other team members that come from different experiences or backgrounds? What if they took on the challenge, and we might get a different outcome that's better than if I had done it myself? Right. So there's different ways to look at these team members, these resources, as ways to get things done. And it doesn't mean you have to give it all to them. Maybe you form a team with them. If we can embrace really understanding our employees and what they're great at, what some of their development areas are and interests, along with embracing diversity, you have such a rich opportunity to go do more as a leader.
This whole theme of this conversation has been really to get to know the team around you and know them not as, what their job description says that they should be doing, but know them as a human being from a multidimensional level, and then playing to that and allowing them opportunity because you see the potential, and then handing it over, finishing the job, delivering excellence. So the follow through, that's part of your other core values. All of that sort of plays into one another through all of those tactics.
And that goes back to, that's part of my brand. That's just how I've been working in the years that I've been fortunate to be in this space. Right.
All right. I'd like to take now a moment to highlight another big passion area of yours, mentorship. You've been talking about this sort of indirectly throughout the theme of this conversation, but let's just talk about it straight up. So you care deeply about ensuring underrepresented groups are seen, and there's a deeper value for everyone, really, when underrepresented groups have a mentor to share struggles, challenges, unspoken social and cultural norms associated with their identity. So in your career, Has there been someone that you've leaned on or someone you've drawn from for inspiration or advice who has shown you the way to a positive mentorship relationship?
Good question. Because we're all taught to, you need to have a few good mentors and sponsors to have a successful career. And I've tried some formal mentor programs at companies. But honestly, where I've learned the most is really learning and taking feedback from as many people I work with as possible. And that's across the globe. There's been times when I've traveled extensively in China and spent hours with people in cars, traveling from customer site to customer site. And boy, that's a wonderful time to get to know a colleague and build up trust and rapport so that when I need feedback on, how is the China team receiving, this business strategy, or, how are they receiving this pricing strategy? How might I bring the China team further along? I get advice. And these are people that are, a few levels below me. But it doesn't matter. In the hierarchy of things, it doesn't matter. They have experience and know-how that I can learn from. And so I take those opportunities when I work with people to either observe them and learn from them, ask them for feedback, ask them for advice. And then also by coaching and mentoring others, I also learn along the way because I'm spending time reflecting. And then dialoguing with them and giving advice and coaching and hearing from them how that resonated or didn't resonate. So that's been honestly my approach, is not the formal route. I think because it was almost too structured for me, maybe. If you're hearing a theme here. And the other route was more relationship based, right? Building relationships with all these folks that I've worked with across the globe in different functions, and understanding their roles, how they work effectively in their roles, or how might I work more effectively with them, or do they have advice for me? Because they've seen other leaders, right, that they've worked with. And so that's been my approach. It's again, that scientist, right? Constantly gathering data.
Yeah. And also with that, having it on the table and not being afraid to just talk about it. I'm just thinking about the build of authentic connections, regardless. You take role out of it, like leveling in the company out of it. You take gender out of it. You take social, cultural, you take everything out of it, and you just talking with the human being and saying, this person probably has something of value to share with me in this experience. Like you said, the scientific piece, I'm learning, I'm gathering, I'm gleaning, and I'm integrating that information to kind of better perform as a leader.
Well, and it's not just in the work. It drives my family crazy because they don't like going out with me sometimes to run errands because they know that I'll talk with people. And I get some great tips from people. Like it could be at the grocery store or, at the dry cleaners. And I'll get some great tips just because I'm having a conversation with that human being and connecting. And I tell you, so they don't like to usually go with me because they know there's going to be all this extra time of me talking to people.
How have you paid forward the positive influences and the guidance that you've received in all of your interactions to inspire others, especially Latina women?
It's a good question. So I think it's often that I have folks reach out to me. And so there was this one Latina woman who, she never was in my team. We were at the same company. And I had one sort of mentoring meeting with her in the company, and years went by, and she reached out to me on LinkedIn not too long ago. And she was just in between and wanting to really rethink her career trajectory and her approach. And so I chatted with her. While there's great formal programs for mentoring and coaching, sometimes all a person needs is a 1-hour conversation with somebody. And it's not this huge, doesn't have to be this huge time commitment or this huge formal process that you've got to put a lot of time and energy into. I've been able to really pay it back by having these 1-hour conversations with people that they hadn't heard that perspective, or the way that I hear them talk they don't realize that they have this great success that they're not even showing on their resume, for example. I do a lot of coaching of young people, a lot of minorities, through education programs that I'm involved in, and helping them with their resumes and interviewing. And sometimes it's just, I mean, I've done like 15-minute sessions with people where I've been able to hear that they're missing out on like this one story that they could just focus on that actually shows their strength, and you see them light up. You see them, they smile more, they're less nervous, and just directing them to that example. Like, talk about that in your resume and in your interview, because people are going to really see who you are when you do that, as opposed to over here where you think you're supposed to talk. And so that's how I've paid it forward, is really responding when these women that we've crossed paths reach out to me and just want a conversation. But then I purposely spend a lot of time with high school, college, master's degree programs, really trying to help people navigate their careers, or what might be a career for them, because I found so much joy myself in my own career. I really would love to see that most people, or the people that I interact with, find that joy too in what they plan to do, most of their life, in those working hours.
Do you have any recommendations or steps that organizations as a whole can take to ensure women or underrepresented talent gets adequate support in securing top roles in organizations? Is the answer simply to have more people or more underrepresented diversity visible in positions of leadership? Is it just that simple, or is there anything more to it? What's your take on it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you do have to have better processes that bring in, diverse applicants into your job opportunities. Certainly, getting people to understand the value of what we've been talking about, people with diverse perspectives, experiences, and how that can help you make a more robust plan or have a more innovative approach. Because you can have a process, but if people don't understand that these things actually are valuable in being a better leader, having a better business and a better outcome, they're going to go through the process, but you might not get the end result we're striving for, and you're not going to convince everybody. But if having them understand why this can be a win for them if they value these things like diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I mean, I was just saying today to somebody about an employee and the amazing things that they do when they believe that you're a great manager for them, right? And you live and walk and breathe it. The loyalty that you get, the output you get is just amazing. And until leaders experience that, I don't know that they're going to value all of that the same that I do.
Okay. All right. Now that we've covered a lot about leadership, it's a great time to talk about something that affects us all, our well-being. Tell me, what does wellness look like for you?
Yes. Well, I started the year with a new set of goals, all centered around wellness. And so first of the list was sleep, making sure that I focus on sleep and I have my healthy sleep hygiene with a routine at the end of the evening, and getting all the to-dos off my mind and onto paper or self-organized for the next day before I go to bed. So sleep is constantly on the top of my list. And then physical health and nutrition. I focused at the start of the year, eating healthier and using tools to help me do that, because you lose track of how much you've had and when you've had it. And so there's so many great tools out there. And so I've needed to have a tool to help me do that. And then getting back to physical health with strength training. So that was my goal, was to get up to 5 days a week of strength training.
Is that kettlebells, or does that look like something else?
So I'm not a gym girl. Definitely not a gym girl. And then I travel. So I need something. And I'd done before, years past, when I had to get myself back to being incredibly healthy. I just did calisthenics.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what I've been doing, because you travel with your gym. It's your body.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I augment it with weights and bands and things. And bands, you can travel with, weights you can't. Yep. I thought about it. And so that's been great. And then trying Pilates, maybe sprinkling that in. But it's on the platform, not so it's much easier. You just lay down. It's so like therapeutic. So that's been great. And so I've always carved out time for, right, taking care of your hair, facials, so I always believe in that kind of self-care, but I really wanted to move to a holistic self-care. Because I spend time with girlfriends, right? So I have a lot of community service. That's my own hobby. But it was really about the, nutrition and physical health and just continuing to prioritize sleep and not let that go at the wayside. And so it's a passion of mine. I'm trying to find more people in my inner circle to either join me on this or add people into my inner circle that's already their lifestyle. Because just like with other advice, surround yourself with people who are positive, happy, successful. Surround yourself with people that prioritize nutrition and exercise and wellness.
You're a product of your environment, but also a product of the people that you keep around. There's a quote about that. I need to remember, look that up. But yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're also a reader, or at least I think I read that you completed a book recently. Tell us about any good reads that are on your list.
But the problem is it puts me to sleep. It's part of my... I actually just, I haven't read it yet, but I was traveling with a new colleague who's at Absolute Biotech, and he recommended a book I just bought. I haven't quite read it yet. It's sitting on my nightstand, though. It's called The Workplace Curiosity Manifesto.
Oh, you're going to need a book club. Maybe get some people together to read it and talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I love the fact that it highlights curiosity, because many of us that are scientists or in the scientific field are curious. And so how do you bring that into the workplace and impact the people that you work with, and how do you change how you work with them? So I'm eager to jump into that. I think he's already finished reading it, so at least I have someone to go to once I've read it to go talk about it.
Awesome. Well, if you post about it, I'll be looking for it in case you have some good advice from that.
I will post about it, I'm sure, when I get done.
Okay, a little bit of variety. I just want to ask you some fun questions if you feel that you'd like to play along.
Sure.
If you could distill all of your wisdom into one piece of advice, what would that be?
It's a good question. Ooh, that's a tough question. Well, I have to cheat here because I did a post recently about just a growth mindset. I have young children and one in college. And so it's easy for us to encourage them to try new things, to put themselves out there to learn and grow. But it's interesting as you see people get into the adult years and sort of get set in their ways, that love and that expectation to continue to learn and grow and put yourself out there dissipates. I don't know why. No. If somebody said, "Hey, would you like to go do this, Lisa?" My first response is, "Sure," because I hadn't done it before. And so I continually love to learn and grow. That's why I do a lot of reflection. And I like to talk with other people to learn from them. And so I think that's my biggest advice, is embrace growth. No matter what age you are, there's something to learn, and you can still grow regardless of what age you are or what decade you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand with the book about curiosity, right? Curiosity for growth plays into together.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you to be like vulnerability questions. So in the spirit of additional vulnerability, what are you bad at? What are you truly horrific at?
Two things. I'll just get it out there right away. Bad at following instructions. Everybody knows that. That's in my family, and those that start to know me well know that, or experience it with me. Know that well, that if I get something and it has instructions, I'll just go right away to start putting it together. So I'm sure there's like features on my car, on my phone that I don't know about because I haven't read the instructions. But you know, I'm okay with that. And then if I put it together wrong, well, maybe I could take it apart and try again. So that's one. I'm horrible at following instructions. And then the other one is I'm a terrible Amazon shopper. We have this special toilet that you have to buy special toilet paper for. So I went on Amazon and okay, here it is, bought it. I got this gigantic case. And maybe it goes with the not following instructions.
Yeah.
So I'll order stuff on Amazon and get like the oddest quantity or volume sizes. And I'm not really a shopper either. And so my impatience and not enjoying shopping combined with not following instructions makes me a terrible Amazon. Well, makes it great for Amazon because they make a lot of money off me.
Good thing for those free returns for the most part.
Yes.
Okay. In closing, can you tell us what's next for you?
Oh, getting to know my absolute biotech colleagues. I'm enjoying this ride of Vector Laboratories and all that we're doing. And so that's what's next, is just continuing to help this business grow and working with some great people to do that. And that ultimately, serving amazing customers, doing amazing things.
Awesome. And where can listeners best find you? So if they wanted to follow you, they wanted to learn from you, where can they best find you?
Well, there's only one place they can find me, is LinkedIn.
Great. Well, thank you for a really great talk today. And I really look forward to following you and your organization's success with Vector Labs, Absolute Biotech. And I wish you continued success in the months to come.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity too.
That was Dr. Lisa Sellers, CEO of Vector Laboratories, discussing her upbringing and how it shaped her passion for education and diversity. She emphasizes the importance of building relationships, being authentic, and embracing empathy as essential traits for effective leadership. Dr. Sellers also shared her approach to delegation and mentorship, highlighting the value of understanding and leveraging various strengths of individuals to create a diverse and successful team. We look forward to your continued success, Dr. Sellers, as you grow Vector Labs and Absolute Biotech to serve your customers.